Thank you very much, Ele. Appreciate the introduction. I thought I saw a hand there from Clement, I think it was, but it's gone now. So hence the hesitation to jump in. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining the session, and thanks for having me too. I am Arsen Malola, and I'm the academic head of the APC program. Tonight we're going to be talking about the APC Comprehensive Program. To say a little bit about myself before I jump in, so I'm an accounting specialist that focuses on all things technical accounting, primarily specializing in financial services, and currently based in London. I'm going to talk to you sort of this evening around our APC Comprehensive Program. And just touching on a lot of things, a few things that Ella has shared and yourselves have shared as well, and fully echo sort of what Ella mentioned around this being an interactive session. So if you have any sort of questions or any comments, please feel free just to pop a comment in the chat or sort of raise your hand or unmute and jump in. All is good with me. I think the first piece to touch on will be sort of the diverse audience that we have that I heard in the beginning of the session. So we have sort of SEMA candidates. We've got sort of traditional CTA or IAC type candidates in the room. So it's good to have you all and welcome. And I guess off the bat, and I heard sort of one sort of expectation of the day was to understand the support level that's available to SEMA candidates to ensure that SEMA candidates don't get left behind, which is a very important thing, a sort of thing to make sure of as you select your professional program provider. So just again, to echo what Ella mentioned, we do have the dedicated ABC Open Day on Monday, so please be sure to attend that too. Attend this session as well, because then you can compare and contrast and reflect against your own sort of journey to try figure out which sort of program is best suited for you. And of course, at Endunamo, we're always available should you want to sort of bounce off your thinking or have a couple more questions. Once you have a holistic understanding of the two programs and how they interact with one another. So in this open day, as Ella mentioned, we'll focus on the comprehensive program, but rest assured that there is an APC or bridging course program, which will have its own dedicated open day as well. So I recall a comment around sort of expecting to hear what Indonamo is all about. So yes, in terms of the comprehensive program, you're definitely in the right place. And also, someone also shared around just the journey in terms of our experience, in terms of how we've interacted with sort of the students, and just to get an appreciation of sort of the journey you can expect, the work, and some of a little bit of our advice as well as you go along. And definitely we'll be able to share a lot of that as we go along. So thanks for all that insights, and we'll be sure to touch on all of those points. So the APC Comprehensive Program is, of course, a professional program on your journey to becoming a chartered accountant as you prepare for SAICA's APC exam, which is the final sort of case study based exam that you're going to face prior to qualifying as a chartered accountant, should you meet all the other requirements that SAICA has. So what can you expect from our comprehensive program? So we've split it into 3 phases. So the most imminent phase, the one that you can actually jump in immediately, although the first contact session is on the 24th of January. You can still sign up, join in, and then you receive a phase note which outlines sort of some of the work that you can do to sort of preempt or get a jump on sort of the work that's going to be done throughout the program. So that's the most imminent phase that you can expect. We'll run through the details in terms of how these phases all work. Then we have the development phase, which is the next block of work, and that commences from the 11th of April this year. And then finally, we have the assessment phase, which is the last phase, and as this sort of naming convention alludes to, is a phase in which you're going to be doing some case-based assessments, and ultimately the objective is to walk away with an Endunamo APC certificate, which if you don't have one already, it's just a certificate from another program. You are then eligible to write the SAICA exam. So we have split the program into these three phases deliberately for reasons that will become apparent as we jump into the detail in terms of what you can expect from each. So the foundation phase, as the name suggests, is building that solid foundation. Now, in this sort of phase, and going back to the point around sort of what have we seen, what have we noticed, and things that you can all keep in mind as you go throughout this journey, is that foundation is paramount. And that foundation is built on your technical knowledge. And you'll see how that those elements come through in this particular phase. And that's also for the SEMA candidates that are also in the session today, the importance of you attending Monday's session so you can get a better sense of the support that's available for Vendunamo holistically to assist you with this foundation, the technical base that you need to have or build depending on your specific facts and circumstances. In the APC Comprehensive Program, the technical foundation is going to be built in the context of APC exam or the case study based assessments. And we're going to do this by first starting off these sessions with speaking a little about the APC exam, but importantly, discussing some of the foundational concepts of not only the APC, but also case-based assessments. How do they work? How do they operate? What you need to keep an eye out on? Where are all those areas that candidates generally struggle with when they come into the program or focus on in their development journey, and where we would also advise you to do the same. Then we'll introduce you to case-based assessments and how they work and how they operate. This includes sort of what a background document is, trigger identification, whether positive or negative triggers, and sort of work to do, what tasks look like, action words in a particular task, and just the expectation in terms of how you respond to case-based assessments, case study-based assessments, etc. So really jumping into some of those concepts. Like I mentioned, this phase focuses on technical competencies, but really highlights the element of integration. And this focus on technical competencies will become a little bit more apparent sort of when we flip to the next slide, when we show you how we've broken down sort of the foundation phase into two pieces. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we sort of approach the foundation phase. What's actually quite amazing about the foundation phase is that not only does it allow you to experience technical competencies in the context of a case-based assessment. So in other words, how can you bring that technical knowledge and that's being a subject matter expert in this particular area into a case study-based assessment? So in the real world, essentially, because ultimately a case study-based assessment tries to simulate what you experience as a chartered accountant in the real world. So how can you show up as a chartered accountant in the real world, almost translating your technical knowledge into real world scenarios? It will also allow you to identify, quite early on, identify your development areas. And that's essentially the design of this whole program, and the assessment phase is that continuous professional development. The key to succeeding in this program, the key to succeeding as a chartered accountant is continuous professional development. Being able to, as a professional, identify your areas of weakness, identify your areas of development, your needs for development, and then putting in place action plans to sort of develop in those areas, to perfect those areas. And we'll support you along the way. And we'll go a little bit into more details into the how sort of in the next couple of slides. In the foundation phase, we also have a mini case study. So this is sort of half of a typical case study, a full assessment, right? Again, in this phase, we'll talk about what a case study comprises of, how it's assessed, how long it is. So the mini case study is essentially half of a full case study. See it as like a practice exam. Again, an ability for you to then test out what you've learned in the phase, to consolidate that knowledge, to solidify that knowledge, further allowing you to identify your development needs that you can take into the development phase to continue to work on. And also to identify some of your wins. Like Ele mentioned, of course, there's going to be a lot of focus on areas of development because that's how we become better. That's how we develop. But it's also important to take a step back, to pause and think about what you do well. And then think about how you can continue doing what you do well, or better yet, to almost consistently continue to do because you have almost those skills in the bag already. So still important to celebrate your wins. Throughout the whole program, you get comprehensive real-time feedback through our proprietary AI-enabled sort of a feedback platform, which we call Indonamo Intelligence, ultimately, or for short, NI. We have a dedicated sort of slide for NI specifically, just to give you a flavor of the type of feedback that you can expect throughout the program. That is definitely an area, a key differentiator for the Indonamo program. Speaking about sort of what we can do to help you in your development journey, and to ensure that you don't get left behind, and sort of NI is a pivotal part of our program. So that's the foundation phase. Flipping over to the development phase. So after you've sort of done all of what we mentioned, kicking off on the 11th of April, we start off by a bit of a refresh of all the foundational concepts that we learned in the foundational phase, and also just reiterating some of those lessons that we learned, sort of solidifying all of those concepts. Then we add on to the technical competencies, because another thing to realize, and what's quite important, and in the theme of sort of highlighting the areas that we advise candidates to think about and be aware of as you go through this journey. Being a chartered accountant, being a holistic professional is not just about technical competencies. It's not just about accounting, auditing, tax, strategy, governance. It's also about various other competencies. It's all about professional values as a chartered accountant. It's all about professional attitudes, right? How do we show up, right? So this encompasses everything from ethics to just sort of approach and sort of how you show up to certain scenarios in the real business world. We're also going to be developing our enabling competencies, right? And this is a core area for the APC exam and a core area of being a chartered accountant. Enabling competencies are elements such as business acumen, so being able to understand the value chain of a business and just commercial concepts. It's all about critical thinking, problem solving, applying judgment in various sort of scenarios and situations, because as a chartered accountant in business and throughout this program, nothing is black and white. Nothing is black and white in the real world. There's always a lot of gray. So how, as a chartered accountant, do you demonstrate or apply your judgment is what you're going to be assessed on. And therefore, we need to develop those core skills. Very challenging, particularly for those coming from a traditional IAC environment, because IAC sort of, or previous ITC, to be honest, IAC a little bit less so, because the program is transitioning quite a bit. But if your background is sort of ITC before the change to IAC, then you're coming from a very technical sort of a way of thinking. So developing this sort of in a very black and white way of thinking. So developing these professional values, attitudes, and specifically the enabling competencies is a core part of your development journey, which we're going to be focusing in the development phase. We're going to continue to develop the technical competencies as we go along, because you'll find that it's very seldom, or very few, not really very seldom, or the percentage of tasks that are solely business acumen driven or solely critical thinking driven come for you are not the sort of the bulk of a case study based assessment. It's usually a technical competency integrated with some of these enabling competencies. So you have a core accounting task, so the technical competency, that's integrated with critical thinking or with business acumen. So it's still important throughout the development phase that we're still developing our technical competency. Now, what's also very important to highlight is that when I say technical competency, I'm not talking about us sort of relearning and re-lecturing accounting as a discipline or auditing as a discipline. We're talking about thinking about specific accounting concepts within the context of the real world, within the context of an APC assessment, within the context of a case study-based assessment. What is also important in this development phase is that we will show you and teach you practically, using practical examples, how to perform technical research. So as part of the case study-based assessment, you'll find that there's a portion of the assessment wherein you'll not only be told what to focus on, so triggers, you'll also have a little bit of time between when you're told and when you actually sit the assessment to do some research. So we'll be going through some techniques in terms of how you perform a technical research to become subject matter experts in a particular area. I think in this particular area specifically, we've been following SAICA, which we do, and for members of our professional team also sort of work closely with SAICA as well. And really sort of shifting the session towards highlighting technical research, and within case study research is another element where we would say is an area for particular focus for our candidates, or we'll ensure it's a particular focus for our candidates. Because ultimately, again, we're seeing that focus in terms of what you research, how you research, may have sort of strayed a little bit. So we need to refocus in terms of how we think about performing technical research. So that's going to be coming up in our development phase in this particular year. We also provide various workshops, which are very exciting and very amazing, to give you additional opportunities to develop your professional values, attitude, and enabling competencies. So these workshops range from a multitude of sort of areas, but in particular, it sort of centers around bringing in some industry experts in various different industries, whether it is in the airline industry, whether it is in sort of financial services as just examples, or business writing workshops as well, where you bring in professionals that assist with business writing to come in and give you all practical sort of workshops to work on your business writing. Because we all write, we all text, we've all responded in an ITC, IAC concept or even a CIMA concept. But as part of the case study based assessment, considering your audience, the manner and your tone of your responses, and making sure that your responses are appropriate for your audience, whether it's the tone, the length, the technical details, the simplicity of the explanations, the kindness of what you're saying, how you're delivering a message. Are you delivering the message? Are you unpacking issues appropriately and touching on key issues as efficiently as possible so you're not wasting time? All of that business writing concept becomes quite important. Is another area that we've seen that candidates need to develop, and hence we've introduced these workshops. The people that do this workshop from us are sort of work quite closely with sort of areas that of extreme complexity in actuarial sciences, and what the work that they do is they focus on sort of enabling actuarial scientists to be able to explain very complex concepts in a simple way to business stakeholders. A similar challenge that we have as chartered accountants, because everything, our technical knowledge can be quite complex, but our audience, CFOs, board audit committees, juniors that need some development, or maybe COOs, HR professionals may not be averse to some of these concepts. So how do we communicate with them, to them with impact? So we've got a business writing workshop. We've got sort of business acumen workshops, so you can learn about different industries and businesses and how they create value and how you can go about thinking about businesses, etc. We've got wonderful workshops that help you develop those professional competencies. In this phase, you'll also encounter a mock exam. So differentiating to the mini case study, a mock exam is a full-on exam. Just to give you a flavor or a tester of what a full exam sort of would feel like without the pressure of sort of it's sort of specifically counting towards whether you get certified or not. Certified being whether you receive an endonumber APC certificate at the end of the program. Just giving you an extra layer of practice. One thing that we can definitely tell you from our experience, both during the APC exam, when we did it way back when, to being the professional provider, is that opportunities to practice these case study-based assessments come few and far between because of the long-winded nature of these assessments. These assessments span over 6 days, and reviewing your sort of your assessments and how you did and reflecting can easily span over 2 weeks. So you're not going to have many opportunities to practice not only before SAICA's exam, but also before our exams. So this mock exam and the mini case study are awesome opportunities for you to practice, identify your development areas, and celebrate some of your wins in being kind with yourself. So that's why this comprehensive program is quite powerful, because you get that gradual sort of development journey from mini case study to full-on mock exam. And of course, overlaid with our proprietary NI feedback system, which I will provide more details about in the next following slides. Lastly, in the tail end of our program is the assessment phase. So this is when you bring all of your learnings together and come and sit for our Endunamo exams, case study-based exams, of which there are 3. And at the tail end of which, in successfully completing the requirements to qualify for our APC certificate, our Endunamo APC certificate, you'll be awarded one at the end of the program, giving you that ability to write SAICA's exam. Of course, we're not just going to throw you into this phase. We are going to start with a refresher on the competency framework and also some of the key learnings that we've developed throughout the program. And then, like I mentioned, we'll kick into our 3 case studies. We have the baseline case study, then the final case study, and then a supplementary case study, which works like your typical supplementary exam. We will go through the details of the requirements for accreditation and these 3 case studies in the foundation phase, where we talk about the foundational concepts. So you will be well aware in terms of what the expectations are from day 1. So there aren't any surprises. The intention is not for there to be any surprises, and we make sure that there aren't any surprises in terms of what's expected from you and how we go about doing the assessments. But we're very sort of transparent in terms of how you are assessed. So you will have access to all the marking grids. And there's also total transparency in terms of our strawmans, etc., and how the overall assessments work. Okay, so I'm going to pause here because I see I've got a question. So Tando, please jump in. I'm happy to take your question.
Hi, Asan and colleagues. Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are. Thank you very much. Hi.
Perfect. I just wanted to ask 2 questions. Is your program online only, or is it an opportunity for us to attend classes or attend workshops or whatever would be going on that particular day at a physical venue? That's question number 1. And question number 2, I don't intend on being bad at anything, right? Especially when it comes to the technical competencies and stuff. But in the event that one does struggle with something, is there a way that you guys can, not that I need to be spoon-fed, but maybe provide with additional questions or additional assistance in that particular aspect, so that I can improve where I actually am not doing so great?
Yeah, great questions. So the first one, so it's an online program. We do sort of do our assessments in a venue, so a physical venue, but the program is an online program. So all the workshops will be run online, and all the sort of live sessions will be run online, and we'll also have screencasts that are available on demand. So all our sessions, all our screencasts, all the workshops, all of the videos are available on demand on our platforms. Your second question regarding support, yep, there's comprehensive support throughout the program, depending on your development journey. So whether or not you're looking for a sort of bespoke feedback in your attempts, like you mentioned, although you may not intend to be bad at everything, that's a good mindset. That's a perfect mindset to have. As you go along, you may still want to sort of develop a particular area, or you may identify something that's almost like comes as a new concept to you, so you want to sort of double down and practice that a little bit more. There are opportunities to do precisely that. So whether it is sort of working through your sort of comprehensive feedback from an eye, whether it is private one-on-one consultation, whether it is through mentorships, there are people that you can speak to. And then in terms of advice, in terms of what you can do to improve, and then it just depends on whatever you want to develop. Whether you want recommendations on additional questions, or sort of we can provide that. Whether you want direction in terms of which technical sort of videos, CTA videos will be helpful to help develop a particular area, we can provide that, etc., etc. So it is a multitude of support that is available to you all.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question, Tando. Cool. Yes, go for it, Tammy.
Good dad.
Is that a question, Tammy, or unmute by mistake? I'll go with unmute by mistake, so I'll mute you. But if that was an actual question, please unmute again and feel free to come back. Cool. So the focus of the assessment phase, as the name suggests, is to focus on assessing professional competence. And I think in this particular phase, feedback becomes crucial. Because like I mentioned, your performance in each case study matters towards your certification. So that continuous improvement, should things not be going sort of directly according to plan, becomes absolutely vital and crucial. So although it may come across as if this phase is one-sided, i.e. us throwing tests at you, case studies at you and sort of just assessing and giving you outcomes, it's not that at all. It's really still a massive two-way street and with a huge focus on feedback. So we double down on that comprehensive NI feedback. And again, I'll show you what that looks like in a later slide. And also we've got sort of comprehensive live and recorded feedback sessions where we really deep dive into not only sort of some of the feedback, but some of the core trends that we're seeing from our assessments that our marketing teams are seeing. And then sort of areas that we think everyone should be focusing on going into the next assessment. So we're at the baseline, going into the final, and for those that qualify for the supplementary, from the final, going into the supplementary. So we're very transparent as to sort of how everything is going. So I'm going to come around towards the end of the feedback sessions and sort of provide that overall we'll share like almost like an examiner's report of sort of the performance of the entire case study, what we've noticed on an overall basis, and things that you should be thinking about and focusing on going into the next case study. In the next assessment, right? So again, we don't just sort of leave you out there. We are there still supporting you even in the assessment phase. In fact, even more so during the assessment phase. I'm going to pause here just in case there are any questions before I dive into the next slide, which will, and team, you can sort of flip, I see LA sharing, you can jump onto the next slide for me. If there are any questions in terms of what we just discussed, and then on the next slide is a little bit more in terms of just some of the detail in terms of how the phases work, and just a few things that I want to highlight. So LA, if you can go to the next slide, please. Or just going to check the chat if there are any questions. Right, so that was the same question around the contact sessions. Cool. I think potentially this, sorry, LA is a previous version of this slide. Any chance able to share the copy? Share in our chat.
Sure, I sent.
Otherwise, I can still work with these ones.
Let me try to share again.
Cool, thank you. Well, while you're doing that, the last time I shared it is in the delivery team chat group. In fact, I can actually do it. Right, you've got it. Okay, perfect. Right, it seems like it's the same version. So in fact, let me take over and to share
All right,
my
cool.
screen.
Cool.
Just put this on Do Not Disturb quickly. Thanks, Helen. Apologies, everyone. I'll be up and running in a second. Play from current slide. Now, Windows share screen. Right. You all should be able to see my screen in a couple of seconds in terms of the next thing we're going to discuss. Right. So this current slide is the foundation phase, so the beginning of the comprehensive program as we discussed. A couple of things to highlight. So we will not go through this on a line-by-line basis, but I just thought to just highlight a few things. So you see the first couple of sessions where my mouse is. Those are our foundational sessions we spoke about, introducing APC and our competency framework. Now, contact sessions are sessions wherein still online. However, we refer to them as contact sessions because it will be similar to our engagement right now. It's a live session. Questions can be asked. We are engaging. We encourage interaction and engagement. So that's what we essentially mean by contact sessions. You'll see that each sort of block is split between sort of accounting, auditing, management, accounting, and finance and tax. So that was the point around focusing or the foundation being the technical knowledge. So that's why the tasks that we'll be going through as part of the case-based assessments will be sort of dominant in these technical competencies. But remember, we're not going to be re-lecturing accounting. We're just looking at accounting in the context of a case-based assessment approach, or in other words, in the context of an APC exam. Now, throughout the program, it's important to mention that you will have access to our CTA videos or our fourth year videos, be Bachelor of Accounting fourth year videos, depending on sort of the terminology you're aware of, which means that for any technical area, whether it's accounting and you think about financial instruments, auditing and you're thinking about substantive procedures, management, accounting, and finance, you think about valuations. Tax, you're thinking about capital gains taxes. For example, we have comprehensive and detailed CTA videos that are made available to you that you can watch on demand that go into the technical details of these particular areas, right? We don't encourage, nor do we think there is time for you to work through all the technical concepts of the CTA syllabus. Or ITC, IAC syllabus. There's just not enough time in terms of the APC comprehensive program. But when an item is triggered in the case study, or when we're sort of going through the program, you do have access to these videos. So if you need to revise a sort of concept at a granular level, the videos are available to you on demand. What's important to also highlight, you see in this timetable, all these task attempts. That's an opportunity for you as a candidate to attempt the task, and then you submit your attempt to NI. Now, usually with these weekly tasks or sort of exercises, with other programs, for example, reliance is on a self-assessment or a peer assessment. Here, we rely on NI for independent assessment of your attempt in real time. You will get your feedback in about a couple of seconds, as AI does, as I'm sure we all use it. You will get some time to digest your feedback, and then we regroup same day while that feedback is still fresh, your attempt is still fresh, and we talk about it. We get that instant feedback. We talk about what went well, what didn't go so well. We talk about some of your reflections. We talk about how you assessed and what you need to think about and everything on the same day. So really a revolutionary enhancement to our program, allowing you to, on real time, identify your development areas, independently identify your development areas, independently know why you are or were not awarded a certain outcome, and then you get to almost immediately talk about it in a contact session with a professional sort of lecturer, such as myself. Then the mini case study starting March, like I mentioned, is sort of half a case study practice exam that you're going to sit, and of course with the feedback sessions after you receive some of your results. The assessing from your attempt of the mini case study is also NI enabled with an additional layer of a senior marker review of the outcomes, and then we give you those outcomes. You get your feedback as well, similar to the attempts that you did throughout the foundation phase. You get a report that includes sort of the outcome of your attempt of the mini case study. And then we've got the feedback sessions where we discuss specific tasks and the outcomes, etc. Right? So again, sort of highlighting that feedback and reflect. That's important as we develop throughout the program. Activities are available throughout the program. And also sort of our wellness hub is also available to you throughout the program. Our wellness program it sort of provides caretaking, coaching, and mentorship to all candidates, makes all of that available. Therefore, there's always someone that recently passed this exam or is part of the marking team that you can sort of speak to sort of openly, and candidly, the open, the better. And they can give you some feedback as well, open and honest feedback, and give you some direction in terms of, and some advice in terms of how you can proceed in terms of your development areas that you've identified and how you can double down on what you're good at. The professional team is also available for consultation throughout the program. We've got a platform that we use to book these consultations, so you get slots that you can sort of consult with various parties. Flipping on to the development phase, you'll see a lot of the same sort of features, which I won't go over again. You'll see all the contact sessions, and then you'll see all the task attempts. Those all work in the same way as the foundation phase. And then you'll see the first couple of sessions, again, is a sort of that reintroduction to APC and the foundational concepts. So that's the same as the foundation phase. Enhancing that in the development phase, a couple of things to highlight. You see we double down on the case-based assessment process and sort of running through the whole process of what you need to think about. So items such as identifying triggers and actions, items such as performing technical research up here, which is in the program as well. So those will feature as specific contact sessions, but we've discussed what those sort of entail. And then you notice in our timetable that instead of accounting, tax, management, accounting, and audit, you will see the enabling competencies. So you'll see here business acumen. Then you'll see critical thinking. Then you'll see digital acumen, which is one that I sort of should have mentioned early on. As part of the enabling competencies, digital acumen has become quite a core part of the skills, the expected skills from a chartered accountant. So you see, because our program is always designed to be aligned to cycle expectations, we've introduced digital acumen specifically as an area, as an enabling competency area in this particular sort of program. So we've got the digital acumen enabling competency as well, dedicated session. But like I mentioned, even though you're not seeing the technical competencies, they are still there. Because with critical thinking, it'll always be attached to a technical competency. Business acumen will be attached to a technical competency. So they are always going to be there. We've built that foundation in the foundation phase. Now we're elevating that to now bolt on to that the enabling competencies and professional values. And especially in terms of professional values, we have an ethics session as well, which we sort of double down on. Then, like I mentioned, we've got the mock exam, which is a full-on case study, and dedicated feedback, like I mentioned earlier. In the assessment phase, nothing much to sort of highlight. I'm sort of over and above what we've already discussed, but we have the assessment phase, which ultimately runs from July all the way to to I think it's all the way to end October to November-ish. It'll run all the way. The screenshot down here is just the baseline case study, but we've got the 2 other case studies that are not included in this overview. Cool. So any questions here before I close off my sort of session with some an overview in terms of what you can expect from NI in terms of super bespoke, personalized feedback. It's quite awesome, as I'm sure you hope you'll agree as we walk through some of this feedback. So I just want to pause for any questions. So Happiness, you can jump in. I see your hand is up.
Hi everyone.
Good
Am I
evening.
audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
So I just want to find out. I heard with the APC, with the final exam, there's a software that we use to write the exam. So I just want to find out
Correct.
if during this going to be exposed. So we just familiarize ourselves with the that software and how to use it.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Happiness. And I see LA, our managing director, has put her hand up, so I'm guessing she wants to jump in to answer the question.
Yes, Happiness, that's a very good question, definitely. I'm sure you're asking because you've had some of the not so great feedback because of some of the challenges one can experience there. Absolutely. For us, you're going to start when the assessment which Aston was talking about on the previous slide, talking about the baseline, the final, and the supplementary. That is fully on that software, which they call the e-writing software, the SAICA e-writing software. So by the time you even get to SAICA or to ICAS or to ICANN, you would have already experienced it. You would have already experienced some of its shortfall. For us, we even actually start helping you experience it much earlier on in the developmental task, which we do on the sessions throughout the program to ensure that you're continuously developed and you're continuously aware where there are gaps. We also use what they call the web-based version because it's got some limitation. The function which you'll have, it's a Word and Excel, but it's limited for certain aspect to make sure that you're able to, you're working in that particular environment. So we're able to, even on the development assessment, the mini case study, and also the mock case study, we use the web version of it. By the time you even get to use the full version of it on the baseline, final, and the supplementary assessment, you would have been already top-notch on it. And we also provide training even before each and every assessment. If there's any particular training, if there's any update which SAICA shares with us, we're going to have sessions where we do training to take you through the tool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ele. Appreciate the response. Any other additional questions? Cool. As always, feel free to raise your hand at any point in time and also put a comment or question in the chat. Ele, our managing director, is available in the chat as well to respond to some questions or will let me know if there's anything that I need to cover in the presentation. So like I mentioned, to finish things off, I think it was quite important for us to show and demonstrate to you in terms of that personalized feedback in your development journey and the level of detail in which we provide you feedback to enable you to identify development areas, to identify the areas that you're good at, and just to give you some advice in terms of how you can sort of improve as a first point of call, right? So this is literally the first feedback you're going to receive. And then from there, we have additional support that's available from the contact feedback sessions, from our mentorship and sort of coaching sort of programs that are available, from our private consultations that are available, from our engagement on sort of Viva as an example, where you can pop questions that's available. NI is really the first point of call, and almost enabling you to identify your areas so that you can get the support that you need throughout the program, throughout the foundation, development, and indeed in the assessment phase, because development is still important in that phase too, and you understanding just exactly how you have been assessed and why you have been assessed in that way. Fully transparent, as I will sort of give you a little bit of a taster on now. So what you're looking at is a lot of words. So please bear with me, and if if you just follow my mouse, you'll be able to sort of follow sort of where I'm speaking to, but I'll also sort of just describe where I'm speaking to, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So top left-hand side corner of your screen, where my mouse is currently circulating, this is essentially the kind of like the beginning of your report, the preamble that almost just sets the tone for the report that you're going to get. And this is typically in sort of with your particular case study, sort of a test assessment outcome. You'll get a report. A reminder on sort of how we're providing you feedback. So we use our Endunamo's 9-point competency framework, which is aligned to SAICA's competency frameworks, to provide you feedback. We do this so that it is clear what you're doing well, and it is clear to you what maybe not competency that may not be going so well, so you can know where to sort of laser your focus or close in on your focus. And then from there, depending on sort of your specific issues, you can find the support that you need. So nothing really to sort of flag in this top left-hand corner, other than the point around this being the preamble to your report and telling you sort of what the report is all about, almost like setting the scene. Then you will see here on this table here that has task A all the way down to task F with outcomes. That is an overview of all your outcomes at a task level. So we'll go through this in the foundation phase, but you'll essentially be assessed on 3 levels. So you are assessed at an indicator level. So every point that you make in an attempt. Then you are assessed at a task level. So assessing whether or not you've achieved the objective of the task. Then you're assessed on an overall level for the whole case study, right? So whether you passed or did not pass the case study, essentially. So what you'll find is your report will include your overall outcome, right? And then it will also include, so this candidate was a competent overall candidate. Then it will include your task level outcomes and in a table. So you'll see what Ele was referring to earlier on LC, which is that limited competence, right? Which is a word that exactly you almost need to sort of reframe what that means, because it can be quite a jarring sort of outcome naming convention. And then all the rest, right? So borderline competent, and high competence. So HC was this particular candidate. So this is the real life example, just to be clear. So this is a feedback that an actual Endunamo candidate received on an actual Endunamo case study that ran last year. Then this particular candidate became in our top 10 of that particular case study. So it was the APC baseline case study. So where my mouse is right now, in the middle of sort of top, sort of still kind of like middle left here, where it says congratulations on securing top 10. So celebrating those wins. We take that very seriously here too, right? It's not all doom and gloom in the program. Your professional journey is not all doom and gloom. We all are fantastic at some things, and we all need areas that we need to develop, right? Same thing with me. I still have development areas. I still have things that I'm working on to become better, to become a better holistic professional. But I always need to also remember to take a step back and think about, when I reflect on the year that was, I think about, these are the things that I did fantastic, I did well, I need to double down on. So we celebrate the wins. So that's what's happening in this sort of box here. So you see a little bit of an overview as to what particularly stood out in this candidate's attempt that attributable to their top 10 outcome. So an overview of the challenges the case study presented. So you see the case study presented a complex and dynamic business environment requiring candidates to demonstrate not only technical proficiency to that base, but also the ability to apply integrated thinking, ethical judgment, and strategic insight, the enabling competencies, right? So those all always come together. Your submission stood out for its clarity, depth of analysis, and alignment to the Endonamo 9-point competency framework. So you know exactly what you did well. Particularly, you were able to adapt well. You demonstrated lifelong learning. You demonstrated critical thinking, business acumen, ethical leadership, and technical competency. But you can say, hang on, Austin, that's still very high level, right? What do you mean? I mean, if I got the report saying, oh, what you did looks like you were quite adaptable and looked like you did well in demonstrated business acumen. What does that particularly mean, right? Yeah, great question, right? So feedback can stop there, right? Very generic, just buzzwords being thrown around, not useful. From our perspective, we dive one level deep. In fact, we go 2 levels deeper, but first level down, top right-hand corner here. We provide you specific feedback in terms of what you did well, what did you not do so well, and advice going forward. Reminder that this feedback will come at you real time. So in the actual program, foundation, foundation, and then the development phase, when you submit your task attempts, in a couple of minutes, a report will be spat out back to you, and you will have this feedback that you can work through for 30 odd minutes before we kick off the contact session and talk about some of the feedback. And you can bounce off, you can share what you're experiencing, share what you're seeing, and we can talk about it in real time. Right? So you're not going to have to wait for this feedback because of our NI-enabled feedback system. So let's have a look at some of the details around what you did well. So now I'm in the top right-hand corner. So we have so you provided a balanced analysis of primary and secondary indicators, right? So just for a little bit of context, this is in regards to a specific accounting task. It was a functional currency assessment, and a functional currency assessment requires you to consider primary factors and secondary factors. You see your feedback is that you provided a balanced analysis of these primary secondary indicators, and it tells you which competencies, because we code the competencies, right? So it shows you down here, these are the competencies that you are ticking off, right? So it showed that you had a good approach, good technical skills, and good critical thinking. Now have a look at the next sentence. Your discussion of price and the legal tender and price demonstrate business acumen achieved, right? You could be asking yourself, but hang on, how did I achieve this competence? It's in your feedback because you discussed sort of the drivers for sales price, you discussed regulatory issues, and you discussed the legal tender. You're demonstrating that you got strong business acumen. So you can see exactly what you're doing to demonstrate those technical competencies. The opposite's also true. Where you're not doing certain things appropriately, you will be told, right? For example, so now I'm reading what did not go so well. Certain review-specific elements of Nyala BA were thin. So these specific indicators, right? Your analysis did not go in with enough depth. And we'll talk about depth in the program as well as a core concept in parsing. It's not just this element. No practical guidance. So these are all the things that you were missing. It even goes so far as calling out spelling errors as well. Advice going forward. You get advice in terms of what you must think about going forward. Specifically in this particular case, covering every review comment indicator. So in other words, coverage was an issue potentially for this candidate. And we'll talk about what coverage is. And it doesn't stop there. Our feedback goes even a level deeper at an indicator level. So at an issue level. So what do I mean? So now I'm reading at the bottom left-hand side corner here. So where we have P5, P12, P5, P12, those are specific indicators, right, that we assess. So in other words, as part of this particular task, this is now a different task. And it needed to correctly identify that refundable deposits should not be included as income, right? That was a key part of an issue they needed to identify and discuss with sufficient depth to demonstrate that they understand that concept. In this particular case, that indicator was not awarded to this candidate, right? And then you'll see that you get immediate feedback as to why. So while you did mention deposits, so this candidate actually mentioned something on deposit, you did not explain why they should be excluded from income, which was necessary to get this credit. So again, you're getting that indicator level feedback as to why you were not awarded a credit, but the opposite is also true. For P12, you're meant to discuss at least 2 valid credits, 2 valid points and relevant risks associated with the Skywards element. This was awarded, and it's because you discussed multiple risks, such as FX exposure, client concentration, technology obsolescence, and you provided reasoning for their impact, which means you met the requirements for this indicator and you were awarded the indicator. Right. So to reiterate, this feedback is real time and bespoke to you and your attempt at this level of detail. And that is sort of our AI-enabled feedback system that's available to you throughout the program to sort of supercharge your development journey. And I think you can all agree with me that with this level of feedback, you're enabled to identify your development areas. You're enabled to come to us, to come to the professional team, to consult, to ask the relevant questions in the contact sessions, the feedback sessions, to spearhead and take charge of your own development journey, right? You're accountable for you, as I mentioned earlier on, and we have given you the tools and the resources in order for you to take that development into your own hands and walk through this journey with us towards that Endunamo APC certificate. We're in this journey together, and our core objective is enabling you to the extent that we can to sort of ensure that you are best equipped, enabled to that certificate. But ultimately, it's still all up to you, because you can have all of this amazing feedback for your attempted task in the first place. You can get this report, and if you do nothing with this report, then there will be no outcomes. I think ultimately that is the message that I wanted to share. And my last slide that I'm going to cover with you all, outlining the program. A massive thank you for the time that they've given me, just sort of listening to what we have in store for you, and also differentiate us from the other programs. I really look forward to welcome you all in the comprehensive program. Again, the APC Open Day session link will be circulated, will be on Monday. Please, particularly our SEMA candidates, compare and contrast the two programs versus your own journey. Be honest with yourself and your own journey. Have a chat with our people from Endunamo, and just to make sure that you put yourself on the development path that makes the most sense for you, that gives you the best opportunity to pass this exam. Right? The shortcuts are not going to work. You really need to pick the program that best suits your development journey. I'm going to pause here just in case there are any questions, but ultimately at this point I'm going to hand back to Ele that can sort of wrap up in terms of any next steps for this particular open day. So I'm going to stop sharing and just pause to see if okay, so yeah, great question from Amos, and I think Ele has also provided a fantastic sort of response. How different it is to normal ChatGPT or Copilot? It's a phenomenal question, and I think Ele has provided a thorough and comprehensive answer. That is really the differentiator. We spend a lot of time. Some of the screenshots that I've shared with you, so the bottom left screenshot that I shared with you at an indicator level feedback is us training the model with our sort of information, with our learnings, etc. And then that ensures that the feedback you're getting are aligned to our expectations and etc. So yeah, absolutely. Because if you just use normal ChatGPT or Copilot, it won't work as well. You can trust us in that one. Provide us with the link, of course. For those that need one-on-one, of course. Thank you, Elawane. Okay, cool. So I will pause here and welcome back Elawane, who can sort of cover sort of from a next steps perspective. And again, thank you all for the time and having me.